Hey, this is Troy from Planet 76. We've got some really good Sixers-focused content coming your way today. Make sure you subscribe to the pod so you can be in the know when we release new content. Enjoy the show.
Welcome, everybody, to Planet 76. This is probably, our fourth season? No, third season?
Gosh, I think we're
covering
entering
the Sixers on here?
I think we're entering our third full season, but we started the year before in the playoffs. Is that?
Yes.
I think that's right.
That sounds right. I'm getting old. Episode 160 is here, and the regular season is also here. The NBA technically starts tomorrow night, and there's only 2 games, but really it kicks off Wednesday when the Sixers play 7:30 on Wednesday against the Bucks. I'm just gonna hop right into it. There's really nothing. There's really nothing else to discuss. Troy's here. I'm here. We're all here. We're ready. You at home watching, listening, you're ready because obviously we're Sixers fans. We're all ready for the season to start. And yeah, this is going to be a quick rundown episode. We don't have a ton to talk about at the sake of being and sounding redundant because we've talked about pretty much everything.
Yep.
So just some basic stuff. I'll kick it off to Troy in a second here. The Sixers are probably going to be without Paul George. Probably, which is not a big deal because the injury, I guess you could say, even though he didn't really get injured, happened a little less than a week ago. Which, by the way, a good note, I would say, is that pictures of Paul George, he wasn't wearing anything on his knee or his leg, so that's definitely a good sign, especially because something like that and the way that his knee bent, you would think that would hurt a lot and he'd probably be severely injured. But I feel like injuries like that are weird because it looks worse than it actually is. So I'm very glad about that, and obviously everybody is glad about that. And if you're not, you're a weirdo. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Sixers-wise, Embiid is more than likely going to play. There's no indication that Embiid's going to miss this game or any real significant time anytime soon unless there's a back-to-back, which we talked about last episode. So if you haven't heard our thoughts on that, we went pretty extensively into the Joel Embiid back-to-back thing.
Yep. Yeah, we
So
did.
check that out in episode 159 if you haven't checked that out already. And Chris Middleton is going to be out. He's injury-prone. He hasn't been healthy he hasn't had a full season healthy probably since the Bucks championship a few years ago. So he's not going to be playing, which helps the Sixers a lot, especially because they're going to probably be missing Paul George. So, Troy, I'm going to kick it to you. I'm going to stop talking and just rambling.
No, didn't Middleton have a 50, 40, 90 year one year?
Probably.
Or if not, he's very close to it probably most years when he is healthy. But you're right, he has not been healthy last couple years. Unfortunate for the Bucks, but and I hope he has a great year this year. But I'm glad he's not playing on Wednesday night against the Sixers, because that's a difference maker when you consider the fact that the Sixers again likely without Paul George. Man, I'm just really excited that the season's here, because I mean as you and I know, and as anybody who keeps up with Planet 76 know, we went through a long hiatus in August and September just because there wasn't a whole – I mean, we were extremely busy in our own personal lives, but also because, there just wasn't a whole lot going on. If there was something substantial to talk about, trust me, Michael and I would have found a way to talk about it, but there really wasn't that much news. And so it's really good to see the preseason kick off and see that now wrap up, and now it's showtime, and it's a really, really good feeling. There's a lot of positivity around the Sixers. You and I have talked about that. You've talked about that, I think, even on Trust the Love on your Instagram page. And just a good feeling. And to play the Bucks, the same team that we played to kick off the season last year, but this time in Philadelphia, is a cool thing. And just looking forward to seeing the new team out there, new faces, old faces, and seeing how the year's going to kick off. It's always really an exciting time. It's like opening day in the major leagues. Like, this is an exciting time, opening day in the NBA. Opening week, first few games, get them out the way and see what you got. So I know you had a little interaction with some players over the last.
Wow.
Well, that might be a little bit of an overstatement, but Michael's going to tell you a little bit about his experience this past weekend.
An extreme overstatement. But yeah, I was at the blue and white scrimmage on Sunday. Actually, I guess yesterday, still technically because it's Monday. But very good time. For those that don't know, because I don't know that they really advertise it as much. But the blue and white scrimmage, essentially, the Sixers head to the Chase Fieldhouse in Delaware, which is where the Delaware Bluecoats play. And they have sort of it's not even really a scrimmage. It's literally them just playing on the court, and they're just dunking and shooting threes. It's not really a scrimmage. Yeah, it's basically a Sixers All-Star game. And Paul George did not play, but he was there, and he did not have anything on his knees, which I talked about before.
I mean, where else can you get that kind of insider information other than Michael right here? I mean, that's
they posted the Sixers posted a picture with Paul George, and he didn't have anything on his knees. So, but it was very cool. Everybody was there. I don't think Kyle Lowry was there though, which is kind of weird.
Okay.
Reggie Jackson was there. Eric Gordon was there. Caleb Martin was there. Kelly Oubre was there. I don't know that Kyle Lowry was there, which is kind of strange, but whatever. I always keep, I think I said this last episode too, I keep forgetting the Sixers have Reggie Jackson. Is that bad? I keep forgetting they have him. I keep forgetting they got him.
Maybe he's going to make us remember here in the early going.
I hope so, because they could use that. And that was a fun time. So everybody looked good. I mean, everybody from KJ Martin all the way up to Tyrese Maxey, although I don't think he played actually, because why did he not play? I don't even remember if he played. Joel Embiid played though, not super long. Gershon played, Andre played. Everybody played except for a few for obvious reasons. And it was cool. It was a great experience. If you've never been, definitely try and go next year. They're gonna have it next year for sure. Yeah, it's fun. It's a fun experience, and it's a nice way to view the Sixers in a non-Wells Fargo Center format, because the Chase Fieldhouse, for those that haven't been there, is a lot smaller than Wells Fargo Center, obviously, as you might imagine, considering it's a not like basketball arena. It also has other activities. So it's a nice way to view the Sixers very up close and personal, because even the court and the stands are a lot smaller than Wells Fargo Center. And everything is a lot more condensed, so you can see really everything no matter where you are. As long as you're within view of the court, you can see everything. So it's a really cool experience. But yeah, that's all I got for that.
Sweet, that is
Paul George.
Insider info, man.
No, it's not. No, it isn't. It's just,
we're advertising it as such, though.
We'll advertise it as insider information. I'm okay with that. And yeah, everything like Troy mentioned it. We talked about it last episode. It's a lot different this year. You can see it with the players. They're just I don't want to say vibes, because I just feel like it's a buzzword, but just the culture is different. Everybody looks good. This is a team. Like, this is a real team. They have chemistry. They all enjoy each other's presence. They all enjoy each other's company. And they all are it just seems like they're all super committed and locked into one goal this year. And obviously you could say the same for every team every year, but with this team, it just feels different. They have the talent. They have the star power. Nick Nurse has a year under his belt coaching with this team. Obviously, they have a ton of new players this year, but a lot of them have played for Nick Nurse or have maybe been with the Sixers before. Andre Drummond, Kelly Oubre, technically. And it just feels different. It looks different. The depth, we talked about it before, this team has, it's unrivaled. The Sixers haven't had this level of depth. I don't even know when the last time they had this many legit NBA players on their roster, especially at the forward position. There's three or four wings on this team that are legit NBA rotation players, even starters. I saw somebody say Kelly Oubre wasn't a championship level wing. I don't know. One, I don't understand how you could possibly say that when you've never actually seen him in a championship setting. And two, just because somebody isn't a Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown level wing, doesn't mean they're not a championship level wing.
Yeah.
So I just want to get that out in the open. It's very stupid.
Yeah, championship
insight
teams
I
are
saw on
designed
Twitter.
in different ways, and
Yeah.
Especially
because we've never seen Kelly Oubre in an actual competitive setting. When is the last time Kelly Oubre was on a good team that had championship aspirations? Literally never. He's never been on a team in his career where the team had championship aspirations. So you don't even know what he looks like in that setting. So how can you possibly say that about him? It's really weird.
Yeah, I for one am so happy that he is a 76er again. This is great. I'm excited to watch him. I'll say this too, like as the season arrives and we're here and it's exciting and lots to look forward to, lots of players to keep an eye on. However long Paul George is going to be out, whether it's a game, whether it's 10 games, right? I mean, we don't know. But there's opportunity there for some other guys to step up. And so that's one of my really kind of just two questions I have for this episode as we inch closer to the regular season starting on Wednesday, and we're a little less than 48 hours from the season tipping off for the Sixers. Like, who is your guy to keep an eye on? Is it Kelly Oubre? Is it someone else? Is it a guy off the bench? As for whatever time period Paul George is out, who is that guy that you're like, man, this is a good opportunity for him to solidify himself as a piece of the rotation even when Paul George is back?
Immediately, my mind shifts to Ricky Council. I'm a big fan of Ricky Council. I like his play style. I like some of the things he brings to the game on both ends of the floor. I think when it comes to he's definitely a bigger player, so he can fill in for Paul George in that way too. But also, just his play style. He's a guy who can hit threes pretty well. He can put the ball on the floor. He can rebound. He's not afraid to attack the basket. So you get some elements of Paul George, even though it's obviously not Paul George, and you don't have Paul George. So you get a little bit of that. I think this could be a nice chance for Ricky to carve out a nice role for himself in the rotation. Because right now, he's probably the fourth wing on this team. And obviously, he'll still get time because you can never have too many NBA-level wings, which I think he is one. And the Sixers do too because they gave him a multi-year contract. But I think this could be a really, really big opportunity for him to really carve out a nice role for himself on this team. And Kelly Oubre too. Obviously, I want to talk about Kelly Oubre, Caleb Martin, all these guys really. KJ Martin. I mean, I think this could be a really good chance for all these guys to step up and really show their value, because a guy like KJ Martin has kind of just been floating around his career. He's still young. He's only 24. He's just been kind of floating around his entire career. Hasn't really been anywhere significant. But now that he's back with the Sixers, this could be a nice stretch of time for him to really show his value. And I think he showed it a little bit last year. I know he didn't play much, but I think in the time he played, he showed a lot. And Caleb Martin. I want to see what Caleb Martin brings. I know we're all fairly familiar with his game, but I'm very interested to see the things he can bring. How consistent of a three-point shooter can he be? Is he good? I know he's pretty good at putting the ball on the floor and attacking the basket, but how good at that is he? Kelly Oubre is probably the last guy, because I think of the four players I'm mentioning right now, he has the biggest role, minus Paul George. He's the guy with the biggest. He's the guy that has the biggest role carved out for himself. So Kelly Oubre, yes, but more so all these other guys who are either one, a little bit unproven, / two, new to the Sixers, and really Caleb Martin and Ricky Council, because even though he's had his stints with the team last year, he's mostly with the Bluecoats last year, so he's still fairly new to the team as well. Yeah,
I agree with that. I agree with that assessment. Kelly Oubre, he's been here, done that. We like what we see, and just for him to keep playing the role that he's been given for this team is going to flow well, I think, regardless of who's in the lineup, who's around him. But yeah, Ricky Council, I think he's not even one that I initially, when I asked the question, he wasn't even one that I thought of. But I do like that answer. He's especially if that starting lineup does roll out the way that we think it's going to, with Kelly and Caleb Martin both in the starting lineup. Who's coming off the bench? Well, you got Ricky Council, you got guys like KJ Martin too, and KJ's a guy who he did some things last year, but in obviously a limited role. Would be kind of cool to see him get some more time, more than 6 minutes of playing time a game, but actually some time to make an impact on the floor. Would be interesting. What's your prediction? So Kelly, let's say Paul George is out for 8 games. Who's inserted into that starting lineup, you think?
Yeah, I mean,
it could. I mean, could they go a little smaller since they are a little bigger already? Could they insert Reggie Jackson or Kyle Lowry back into that starting lineup?
I think it's going to be situational. I think depending on who they're playing, I think you could go 3 guards. You could go Maxey, Gordon, Lowry, Maxey, Gordon, Jackson, Maxey, McCain. I don't know what's going on with McCain.
Right.
He got hurt. He's probably going to miss time, but he also might be sent down to the Blue Coats, so we don't know. McCain right now is a question mark, so I'm going to leave him out of this for now because I don't really know what's going on.
I don't know. I mean, depending on Lowry's health or whatever's going on with him, he's older. I mean, he obviously started last year, and maybe for the sake of easing into this, guys who kind of know the offense already, it maybe without Paul George right now, it's Maxey, Lowry, Martin, Oubre, and Embiid. I don't know. That could be, but you think Ricky Council's definitely off the bench?
I think he could start at certain points. I think if the Sixers are,
I mean, right now without George.
What?
Right now without Paul George.
Oh yeah, I think he could start right now. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't really see any negative of him starting. Right. I don't. Obviously, he's still a little bit unproven with the Sixers, but I don't see any negative of him starting. He gives you a nice boost, really on both ends of the floor. Like I mentioned earlier, he can hit threes. He can play defense. He can rebound. Just do a bunch of things, and I like that a lot. And I think when you're missing Paul George, you need a guy who can do a bunch of different things on both ends of the floor. I think Ricky does that.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't, if he starts a couple games, it wouldn't shock me at all.
Okay. Yeah. That'd be cool, right? I mean, you talk about an opportunity on a silver platter. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's see what he can do, and again, solidify a spot for himself, even when this Sixers team is fully healthy. The second question I had before we get to just some upcoming, what's coming up on the schedule, the Sixers' first 5 games, we'll talk about a little bit, and then we'll wrap up this episode 160. But the next question is more broad, just to kind of let you run with it in whatever direction you want. Something we've touched on since the preseason's been around too. But now that the season is here, you start to look at matchups. You start to look at, all right, Sixers are home, then they're away, then they're and those kind of things over these next 2 weeks. What are you looking for? What's something you have your eye on as a Sixers fan, as a podcaster for the Sixers, as an owner of a reputable Instagram Sixers page? What's your eye on, whether it's a rotation, whether it's a certain player, whether it's who's getting what minutes, whether it's who's taking the last shot in a close game, all that stuff. What's your eye on early going?
My eyes are on everything this year. I'm looking at Gershon. I'm looking at Ricky. I'm looking at KJ for sure. I'm looking at Andre Drummond, but in a different way because I just really like Andre Drummond, and I just love the way he has stood the test of time, in a sense of he's stayed really valuable and impactful despite leaving Detroit and Cleveland in kind of a weird way. He still remained very impactful and valuable, and in fact, exactly what the Sixers needed. So I'm really excited for his second stint here. Gershon, in the sense of I really want to see, 1, how much playing time he gets.
Yep.
2, what he can actually do, because I'm really excited for the value that he provides, because I know he's a very valuable player in similar ways to Drummond. Nothing crazy, but the rebounding, the physicality, his ability to run the floor, catch lobs, set screens, roll, that's big, and the Sixers definitely need that because in the past they haven't had many guys who could, big physical guys who could roll to the rim and catch lobs and score down low, so that's going to be good. I have eyes everywhere. Really, I'm looking all over the place for this team because I want to see what happens. I want to see how this guy pans out. I want to see if the Sixers run this rotation. I talked about it last week. A couple rotations I'd like them to see. I won't go much into that because I'll start rambling. But I am very interested to see some of the lineups Nick Nurse rolls out, especially with Gershon potentially at center or Gershon potentially at the 4, depending on who's next to him. Even if it's Embiid or Drummond, that'd be kind of weird. Gershon and Andre, but I would be cool with it. I would. This season, the Sixers have so much. The theme for this season is versatility. The Sixers have so much versatility; they can do a ton of stuff. Yep. So if that happens, I wouldn't love it, but I think it'd be cool to try it. And I don't know if Nick Nurse would actually do that. I think it'd be cool if he did. I don't know if he's going to though.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. A lot there. Yeah. And rightfully so, right? There might not be one thing to keep your eye on. There's 7 things to keep your eye on. And that's just the nature of the start of a new season and new faces. And, the particular thing that I have my eye on, and I touched on it last episode, I think, so a little bit redundant here if you watched and tuned into episode 159, is this backup point guard role. And other guards alongside Tyrese Maxey when it comes to, Jared McCain, you can throw him in that conversation too, but specifically Kyle Lowry, Reggie Jackson, and how that's going to work out. You have 2 veteran guards, and they're both used to playing a lot. They're both used to, at times in their career, certainly major roles. And now they're both on the same team, and they're both likely coming off the bench. And how does that work? It's almost a new thing for both of them. I mean, Kyle Lowry was here last year, but he started the majority of his time here, and likely not going to this year. And just how that's gonna play out, and who's gonna get more minutes when. Is it gonna be purely situational? That's the thing I really have my eye on, because that's an important role, and I think they both bring a lot to this team and can be valuable. But at one point, at some point, especially when you fast forward way down the road, you think about playoffs. If both these guys are still here, one of them's going to get more minutes than the other one. One of them's going to play, and the other one might not. That just could be the reality that the Sixers find themselves in, and that these 2 find themselves in. And so how they're going to handle that one, but also too how Nick Nurse is going to find this balancing act, and whether or not it's purely situational. I think it likely will be, but we'll just have to wait and see. So real quick, Sixers schedule. This is fun because we get to talk about basketball games that are coming. We haven't done that in a while. So we said it already. Michael led with this. Wednesday is the season opener, October 23rd, against the Milwaukee Bucks at 7:30 on ESPN. Then the next Friday after that, Sixers travel up to Toronto. It seems like they always go to Toronto, the second, third game of the season. 7 o'clock to face off with the Raptors. Sunday afternoon, 3:30 tip against the Indiana Pacers in Indiana. Then the following Wednesday, a week after the season opener, day before Halloween, the Sixers host Tobias Harris and the Detroit Pistons. Again, that's next Wednesday, and then a couple days off before the Grizzlies come to town on Saturday, this November 2nd, as the calendar turns. That's a 7:30 tip. So first 5 games of the season: Bucks, Raptors, Pacers, Pistons, and Grizzlies. We already gave you a little bit about the opener with Milwaukee, Chris Middleton being out, Paul George likely being out, and all of that fun stuff. But what here, the obvious one is Tobias Harris. Maybe we'll save that. We'll get to that at the very, very end. But what here, other than that, catches your eye?
Nothing really. They're going to sweep their way through the first week. No, but seriously, the Grizzlies are going to be pretty good. That's going to be a good matchup. The Sixers may have a tough time with them just because of the physicality, the very defensive, gritty team. That Memphis identity is still very much alive and well, even in 2024. So it's going to be a tough matchup. But other than that, they should probably even without PG, I think they could beat the Bucks. And Raptors stink, Pacers stink, Pistons stink. I have nothing else really.
Indiana could be fun because Joel Embiid's conditioning and the way that Indiana likes to run early going against Indiana. That's a good point. That could be something to take note of. But this is going to be fun. We got our our schedule. First 5 games. Also, something to note, obviously, is there's no back-to-backs in the early going, so we see how many Joel's going to play through this first couple weeks of the season. Did not play at all in the preseason, so that'll be something to keep an eye on for sure. The big fella and how he returns to action. Why don't you do this? Why don't you give me why don't you give me a Tobias? We'll close with this. A Tobias Harris box score prediction for his return to Philadelphia the day before Halloween. What's his numbers going to look like for Detroit?
I'll be kind. I'll say 17 points. He'll make 3 of 7 from. He'll be 3 of 7 from 3, and he'll be like 8 of 17 or 8 of 16 from the field. 8 rebounds, 4 assists.
Okay, pretty solid game.
30 minutes.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Pretty solid game. That'd be a pretty solid game.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be how typical Sixers would it be if someone comes back and Tobias drops 30, knocks down 6 threes, goes for 10 boards, 7 assists. It would be very fitting. But
the most Sixers thing ever.
It would be. So we'll see how Tobias Harris fares. We'll see what kind of treatment he gets from the crowd and everything too. I mean, we've talked about him so many times, and just respect him as a human and as the what he did bring to the Sixers and showed up to work every day. But certainly wish it could have ended in a different manner.
Yeah.
But time heals, and so it's been a few months since that, and so we'll see how the Sixers fans treat him. Anyway, the season is here. We are excited, if you can't tell, on Planet 76. This is episode 160 of the podcast. And, Michael, next time we talk, we're going to be talking about some Sixers basketball, breaking that down.
Yes.
That's going to be fun. We made it through
Very
the offseason. We hope you're going to stick around with us here on Planet 76 for the regular season and beyond. Let's go Sixers. You just listened to an episode of the Planet 76 podcast. Hey, we appreciate you joining us for this episode. Whatever platform you're on, why don't you hit that subscribe button for us, and we'll see you next time.